In fact, as of just now, we are recording this session. It will be made available to you guys via YouTube. I found out after our last webinar Wednesday that our email, unfortunately, cannot send a file size that large. So I'm making these available via YouTube, and I will send you those links after everything has uploaded and we're good to go. So with that being said, again, thank you for joining me. Today we are going to be discussing the Friday morning report. For many of you guys, you've been doing this report for many weeks, many months as of recently. However, things have kind of changed and evolved, and the report's become a little different than what we've worked with in the past. It's not uncommon. We see what information we'd like to add in there. It's really helpful information in helping your regional managers as well as the executive officers here at the office understand a little bit better of what's happening on your properties. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get that screen shown here. If you guys have any problems hearing me or seeing my screen, please don't hesitate to let me know. I will do my best to help you along the way. With that being said, I'm going to do my best to avoid the ums and the okays today. I heard that that was some very fantastic feedback this last time around, so thank you for sharing that with me. I really appreciate it. It helps me to improve as well. So what you guys are seeing on the screen right now is a new page to the report. This is our Friday morning report cover sheet. It is a little bit more detail-oriented than what we're looking for on the actual report in of itself. So every page contributes in its own specific way. This one is a fantastic way to summarize what's happening with your community, as well as to help us understand a little bit more with what you're trying to accomplish on a daily basis as well. This report will change from time to time as we're taking on new communities and selling. If you do not see your property listed on this report for any particular reason, I would encourage you to reach out to me so I can go ahead and update this and ensure your property is reflected. You'll notice that each property is separated because each report will require its own cover sheet. So your particular properties aren't bundled together on this cover sheet. You also have a very helpful checklist that you guys are able to go ahead and utilize as well. This form has been formatted in such a way that allows you to interact with it in very limited ways. So you want to make sure that you're using this to its fullest extent. Moving on down, we do have your vacancy and rent due. The regional managers as well as their executive officers are very curious to know how the property is thriving. And as you know, Hudson Grove is very occupancy driven. We love to see that 100% occupancy at any of our properties. That's always a constant work in progress, but we always like to evaluate how we're doing this week compared to last week. So definitely ensure that you keep track of what your number of units vacant you have as of the day that you're filing that report, as well as how you filed it last week. With any luck, you guys are keeping digital copies of your reports. In fact, on your desktop, you should hopefully have a folder dedicated to weekly traffic reports, and you're keeping or saving those on your computer. With vacancy, we also want our rent due. We love to go ahead and evaluate what pricing we're going ahead and collecting. And for lots of our communities that are being repositioned within the Metro Denver marketplace, we're seeing gradual increases on rent, and we're also seeing some new market rents being implemented as well. So we love to go ahead and see what rents we're collecting compared to last week. Maybe we had a market rent increase, or perhaps maybe one of those units was sitting vacant a little bit longer than what we anticipated. So we definitely want to keep track of those as well. And then down here are three boxes. They each have their own question in here. This is very important for us to understand how you are managing your particular asset. So we want to know what type of positive effect you've had on cash flow this week. And that could be anywhere between, or well, not between, but that could have been very well your aggressive collection methods to ensure that your residential delinquency was staying as low as possible. It could have been a change in your application charge. You know, maybe some of you guys are running a charge at 35 and you upped it to 45. Any sort of positive effect on that cash flow, we want to know. What you guys probably don't know is that a lot of the feedback that you provide to us, we often share with your fellow managers. And what we see working at one particular community may work exceptionally well at some of our other communities. So we love to have that knowledge shared so that we can go ahead and provide it to other property managers who may be having a little bit more difficult time. The next question is, how did you and your team create value for the community this week? Value isn't specific to financial costs. Value also comes back into play with what improvements you're doing within the community. And this can be a customer service approach from resident retention. I think I shared with you all Rebecca's resident function from last week, a fantastic opportunity to bring many of your residents into the office and have an open conversation with them in regards to residential delinquency and seeing how their residency is going with the community and all sorts of different things. It really opens up that door. That has created value. Another way of creating value is your relationship with your city and your submarket. What type of relationship have you carried on with your local area competitors? Have you started outreach programs with local area agencies? Things like that. Start thinking outside of the box in regards to how you've created value, and it can be very simple or it can be very involved. It's really dependent upon what approach you've taken. And finally, we definitely and most certainly want to know how we as the corporate office can support you and your team to help make your community thrive within this Metro Denver marketplace. We're here to support you in every conceivable way. That's why we exist. We wouldn't be here without you. And we want to know how we can step in and assist you with anything that you may need help with on your property. Maybe it's a new marketing flyer to help you promote your resident referral bonus program. Maybe you need your regional manager to come down and help you learn a little bit more about what their expectations are with the BVR. Perhaps maybe I can visit you and help you with some sort of training program that you're looking for. Maybe you need a little bit more experience. Just know that we are all here to help you be as successful as possible and to help your community thrive within a very competitive marketplace. So please don't ever hesitate to reach out for help. That's why we're here. So this report should actually be the first page, or this cover sheet should be the very first page of every report you file for your particular property or property portfolio for those that have more than one particular property. If you guys have any questions in regards to this cover sheet, please don't hesitate to let me know. I believe that I'm actually going to be adding in one more line item here, and this is specific to market rents. So we're going to see another little line right here, probably within the next week. It's just another little line item. It's for those units that have been sitting vacant for 21 days. Remember, for those that have been sitting vacant for 21 days, we want to go ahead and reevaluate our pricing methodologies with what we're currently offering. We do have that set program here at Hudson Grove. So remember, if you have a unit that's been sitting vacant for 21 days, you can meet with your regional manager to go ahead and reevaluate that pricing. Maybe there's something more we could be doing to entice somebody or a prospect to lease at the community. So there is some interest in knowing after that unit has been vacant for 21 days. But I think what we're going to do to begin with is we're going to make sure that that gets listed on your unit availability details. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and log into Yardi and show many of you guys how to go ahead and generate some of these reports. For many of you, this is going to be old hat. You've been doing it for quite some time. For others, such as our newer managers, we're going to go ahead and this will be your first time experience with this. With that being said, I want to go ahead and just take a quick break to plug our employee referral program. We have been running this program now for quite some time, for, well, probably about 60 days. It's a lucrative program that you guys have the opportunity to make some really, really good money by referring candidates to Hudson Grove Property Management. Remember, for full-time employees in the on-site management positions, you have the opportunity of earning $500. Add on an additional $250 if you recommend a maintenance supervisor or support technician. It's a wonderful way to go ahead and not only promote Hudson Grove Property Management as a premier property management company to work for, but to also go ahead and give yourself a little bit of a reward for all of your hard efforts. Okay, so here's Yardi Voyager. Jill, I hope you don't mind. I'm going to go ahead and probably stick with Wheat Ridge Gardens, and you'll have to forgive me if I end up saying Wheat Ridge. Please forgive me if that comes out a couple of times, but Wheat Ridge Gardens is the property I'm probably going to focus on a little bit more here today. So the first page of your report is the unit availability detail report. And how you pull this particular report is to go over to residential analytics. So you're going to click on your analytics button, and just so that you guys are aware, I'm in the conventional community manager dashboard. That's the particular role I have set. My affordable managers, I actually haven't dabbled very much in the affordable management side of things. So please communicate to me if we pull a report different on that side of things. But for the time being, we're going to stick with the conventional side of things. So you're going to want to go over to Analytics and Residential. You guys are going to notice that you have two different. You have Residential AR Analytics and Residential. The AR Analytics is specifically for accounts receivable. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. There are very specific reports that you're going to pull from there. In fact, it's the Resident Delinquency Summary or the Aged Receivable Reports. So that deals more with the monetary aspect of our Friday morning reports. Residential is where you're actually going to pull a bootload of other reports, and you have all of these wonderful reports available to you, from tracking all of your unit directories to your rentable items such as garages and carports, how your 12-month occupancy is doing, your box score summary. There's just a ton of things in here, a ton of reports in here that will help you to be ultimately successful in your day-to-day operations of the property. Lots of these reports you're actually going to continue to pull for your BVR as well. So when you have a spare moment or two, as rare as I know those moments are, don't hesitate to start becoming a little bit more familiar with this list. So typically what I recommend is when you are on the residential report section, find the specific report that you are looking to go ahead and pull. In this particular instance, again, it's the unit availability detail. Nothing in here is set up alphabetically, so you might have to do a little bit of searching. If for any particular reason you can't find a report, don't forget that you have this wonderful search bar up here that will allow you to go ahead and look for specific reports, okay? There are those uhs. I'm going to get better about that, guys. I'm just saying. So don't hesitate if you can't find a specific report to type it up in there. And that search bar is in your upper left-hand corner right beside the home button. Thankfully for us, the unit availability details is listed in this particular drop-down menu. So you're going to go ahead and select that. And the reason why I recommend selecting your report type is because you'll actually notice, depending upon the report that you're pulling, it's going to change the required data to plug in, okay? So once you've selected your report, let's go ahead and change that, that property, typing in your property code. What you're going to want to do is also just go ahead and include your pre-leased units. If your first time in Yardi, or the first time that you're pulling this report, it's actually going to default to a blank drop-down menu. You want to make sure that you're selecting pre-leased units only. This is going to show on the actual report not only those units that are currently available, but all of those that have been pre-leased out as well, because we're very interested in those too. This show section, you're welcome to go ahead and include notes. Notes are particularly helpful, especially at our communities where we want to indicate, application has been sent or filled out, follow-up visit has been taken care of, things like that. So you're welcome to go ahead and select notes as well. For this particular one, I'm going to go ahead and leave that blank though. Next, you're going to want to go ahead and change the date to include this, or to be the specific date that you're filing for. So in this particular instance, let's just go ahead and take today's date specifically. So September 7th, 2016. If that will change for me, let's do that again. There we go. These boxes are grayed out. Yardi is not going to allow you to go ahead and manipulate the figures in these boxes. So this particular one, you're just going to want to go ahead and select. We don't need to show graphs and we don't need to show grids. What we are going to go ahead and do is click that display button, and you're going to see all of that wonderful material generate just down bottom here, and then you're going to export to Excel. Now keep in mind, all of your reports are going to be exported to Excel. Excel is a lot more user-friendly with being able to edit these documents than what PDF can do, okay? So that's why it's particularly important to make sure that you're exporting to Excel. So after clicking that button, things are going to start generating and loading, and with any luck, you will have the opportunity to go ahead and open up that document. Now, each document is sometimes formatted very differently in Excel, so sometimes you have to play around with the formatting to make it as user-friendly as possible. And keep in mind, I am working off of an Apple. Many of you guys on site utilize Windows machines. So this is going to be maybe a little bit different, but hopefully not substantially. As you can see, the report has generated here. It's pretty user-friendly, but the first thing that we're going to want to do is go ahead and change that font size. I know it says that it's 12, but the entire report isn't at 12. And once you click that 12, you'll notice that the entire report goes ahead and actually changes the size. The other thing that you can start to do is play around a little bit with your column widths to make sure that all of the data fits properly within the cells. Some of your machines, as you're doing this, will actually auto do this for you the minute that you click your first column. So as you can see, I'm just going through, and it's helping to go ahead and reformat that report just a little bit to make it a little bit user-friendly. And as you can see, now we're not stretched onto multiple pages. This is coming down onto a single page. Well, fantastic. We've generated the report, we pulled the report, we've generated it, we've exported it to Excel. We've gone ahead and increased the font size to 12. We've made it a little bit user-friendly to go ahead and read, which your regional managers will thank you for. I can tell you, as a former regional manager, sometimes the reports were just, well, they could be interesting to read. So from this point forward, what you want to make sure that you're doing, including the cover sheet to your Friday morning report, is typing. Please, if at all possible, avoid handwriting anything onto these reports. It's completely excusable if you're getting ready to scan and send these to your regional manager. If suddenly you remembered something and you forgot and you're like, okay, I'm just going to handwrite that in. Okay, that's something a little bit more excusable. And what I would actually recommend is, as you're sending that report to your regional manager, instead of handwriting it on the report, include that in the body of your email. And then they can print that email off, include it with your Friday morning report, and then you're all set. Some of you have very beautiful handwriting. Others, it can be a little bit illegible. So that's why typing is particularly important, okay? That's why we have you exporting it to Excel. With that being said, let's go ahead and, I apologize, I heard a knocking on the door. Okay, so with that being said, what you're going to do is down here at the bottom, you're going to put in a new section, and it's going to be status as of today. You're going to make sure that that's bold and underlined. And what you're going to do is you're going to list some really helpful pieces of information, such as the percent leased units you have, the percent occupied units you have. Remember, Hudson Grove is occupancy driven. We want to know how you guys are doing keeping these units leased and occupied. And then what you're going to do is you're going to start listing those units up in this category right here, okay, that are unrented. And you're going to have a couple of different categories sometimes. Sometimes you'll have vacant, unrented, not ready. Sometimes you'll have vacant, unrented, ready, vacant, rented, not ready, and vacant, rented, unrented, not ready. So you'll have a couple of different categories, such as well, notice unrented. So it really depends on what's happening with your particular property. When I was a regional manager, and I can't attest to this for both Crystal and Rick, so I would err on the side of caution. What I was really looking for were those units that were vacant, those units that hadn't been pre-leased yet. They were unrented, because those were always of concern to me. The other ones, those that are on notice, well, they're on notice. Although our efforts are to try to lease out these apartments, we also are focusing our efforts on those that have been sitting vacant, especially those that have been sitting vacant over an extended period of time. So check with your specific regional manager to make sure of what data they want to go ahead and have included. But for all intents and purposes, we're going to go ahead and include all 4 of these units, okay? So for 4401-B2, you're going to go ahead and list that particular unit, and you're going to continue on. But I'm going to go ahead and start pulling some information that I think is going to be very helpful to your regional managers, as well as to you, to understand how everything is going. So for the leased units and occupied unit percentages, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go ahead and return to the dashboard, to the community manager dashboard, and you're going to want to pull this information right here from leased units and occupied units. And as you can see right now, we're at 90.91% for both. So let's go ahead and plug that information into this particular one. Was it 91? Nope, 9091. And you'll duplicate that information down here. Next, for any of those units that are currently sitting vacant, we especially want to know why or how many days they've been sitting vacant. So for this particular one, we're going to go ahead and highlight or type right away vacant, and then the number of days that it's been sitting vacant. And the easiest way to pull that information is to go back to your dashboard here. And right here, where it says available units, you'll see the number 4. If you click on that, it's going to preload some information down here. It'll actually share with you how many days those units have been sitting vacant. You'll notice that we currently have 3 that are vacant and one that is on notice. So that first unit that we were talking about is 4401B2. You can write all this information down ahead of time to plug it into your report. We're just going to go ahead and kind of wing it a little bit here. But it's been vacant for 7 days. So we're going to indicate that here right on the report. Hopefully you all are familiar with our pricing structure and how we handle the 21-day vacancy. If not, let me go ahead and run through that really quick. For those units that have been sitting vacant for at least 21 days, and hopefully you guys are keeping an eye on these units and you're not waiting simply for that 21-day marker to come. Hopefully you're being aggressive about what you're doing to try to pre-lease out these units. But for those that have been sitting for 21 days plus, we want to go ahead and have you meet with your regional manager to reevaluate that pricing. And if I recall correctly, the first initial pricing decrease that we offer is $25. So if the unit's market rent is $9.50, it's been sitting vacant for 21 days, we're going to go ahead and knock that down to $9.25. And then every week after that it sits vacant, we're going to go ahead and decrease that price by $5. Communicate this with your regional manager often, every week, especially when you're filing your weekly report. That's a perfect way of going ahead and communicating any pricing changes you may be looking to go ahead and implement. For a lot of our managers, decreasing that price is sometimes not an option, but I want you to understand that it is. Don't let yourself get into a situation where you allow that unit to sit vacant longer than it needs to be. Sometimes that $5 is all that makes a difference. If you're not willing to go ahead and bend on that pricing, that's okay. Bring some other ideas to the table. Maybe we might want to go ahead and waive the application fee. Or if the resident has a pet, maybe we can go ahead and waive the first 2 months worth of pet rent. Things like that, okay? So start thinking of different ideas if you're not willing to budge on that $9.50. If you're like, that $9.50 is the best price for this unit, we're the least expensive within the submarket, I really don't feel like we should bend, then that's okay. Just communicate that with your regional manager. Alrighty, the next little bit of information that we're going to want to know on your vacant unit specifically is, when is it move-in ready? We want to know if this unit's been sitting vacant, is it, could we have somebody essentially moved in by tomorrow? Well, if the answer is yes, let us know. If the answer is no, let us know when you will be able to have that turned. An average make ready, depending upon the demands of your property, should be 5 to 7 business days. Start anticipating the needs of your communities by forecasting ahead and pre-walking these apartments to find out, do the countertops need to be resurfaced? Do we anticipate needing to replace the carpet in the apartments? Do we have a hole in the wall that's going to take about a 3-day repair period? You can pre-walk these units, 1 to 2 weeks prior to the resident turning over occupancy back to your specific property, and really preparing yourself to forecast ahead and schedule ahead. We always like to say, anticipate the needs of your community. Anticipate what's happening, and anticipate how you can go ahead and stay ahead of the game. All right, so for this particular one, Jill, I'm sure this information may not be correct, but I'm going to go ahead and just plug it in, okay? I'm just going to assume that this unit is going to be move-in ready by this weekend. And if today is the 7th, 8th, 9th, we're going to say move-in ready by Saturday, the 10th of September, 2016, okay? Then what we want to know is, what have you done to try to lease out this particular unit since it's been vacant? What efforts have you put forward to try to get a prospect in here? Well, we toured 2 prospective residents, sent one with a rental application, and the other one we'll just say didn't follow up, okay? Maybe you reposted your ad to Craigslist to start generating more leads. And perhaps you updated the pricing on your website. Now, websites are currently in development. Some of you have live websites, some of you don't at this moment in time. We're working diligently to try to get all of these websites live. We're still waiting on some information from properties such as floor plans and some pictures. However, if you do have updates to the website, just let me know. We can update the pricing for you. We can make sure that all of that information is as accurate as possible to help you be as successful as possible. And then down here is the perfect place to put any notes specific to that unit. Now, when I say that, what I mean is if you're having a particularly difficult time leasing this unit for a number of reasons, we want to know why. Maybe this particular unit's on the top floor and it faces in such a direction that they look over the dumpster enclosure. And some of your prospects just aren't keen on that. Let us know. Maybe there's some options that we can go ahead and explore. Maybe there are some alternatives that we can go ahead and recommend. From setting up the unit as a mini model to maybe working a little bit harder on the curb appeal and what we can do to help improve that curb appeal. I always say be specific yet concise, and never hesitate to go ahead and let us know what type of obstacles or hurdles you're coming into. Leasing 101 is to always overcome those objections. We've all gone through the process of helping residents come to terms with. Sometimes there are objections that are completely doable. There are others that sometimes are just going to be a little bit more difficult. So sometimes just really finding that right person for that apartment. But communicate that to your regional managers. We all have fantastic experience and nobody knows your property better than you. But sometimes what's working at a different property might actually work at yours, and without communicating that, you may never know. So the note section down here, we've had this one vacant for 7 days. We're not particularly concerned about it, but let's just go ahead and say over here, we have 4411 B2. And this particular one has been vacant for 42 days. And yes, we've had that happen before. The market just kind of slows down, or you have that one particular unit that you're like, it's cursed. It's cursed. I can't get it leased, or I can't find anybody qualified. Well, for this particular, I'm just going to correct my spelling because, always edit, edit, edit. So this one is actually, has been move-in ready since, we'll go ahead and say September 1st, okay? So it's ready to go. It's a beautiful unit. Your teams have been working hard on it. You guys have done a wonderful job, okay? What you're going to want to do is, again, list all of the actions that you've taken to try to lease out this unit, especially since it's been sitting for 42 days. I'm not going to go ahead and, I'm not going to go ahead and type out that action, but down here in the notes section for this unit, this is where you're going to put some of that helpful information, such as the unit has been particularly difficult to lease due to its location. Maybe it's right above a boiler room and it gets a little hot. Or maybe it's right above one of your sprinkler compressor rooms and there's a ton of noise. Add that detail into here. Let us know what's happening, okay? Due to location. It faces the dumpster enclosure. Next, what is the current rent amount that you've been offering for this particular unit? Well, for the past 42 days, we have been keeping it at $950. What's the rent amount you'd like to offer for the week ahead? Well, you've talked to your regional manager and they've suggested let's go ahead and knock it down to $925 and see if that makes a difference. In addition to that, are you offering any leasing specials? Actually, before we get to there, I feel like this would actually be the perfect place to put that prior market rent, okay? So we have your current rent amount, what we're currently offering, and maybe that is market. If that is market, I think to begin with, you guys can probably put that in parentheses, okay? If that's not the current market rent, what you're going to want to do is put current market rent, okay? And if the current market rent was actually $1,000, you'll want to indicate that here, okay? So let's just pretend, for all intents and purposes, that the current market rent is $1,000. We have previously discounted it down to $950. And for the week ahead, for that next week ahead, we're going to go ahead and knock it down to $925, okay? Then in addition to that, we're going to want to know any of your leasing specials. Maybe you went ahead and discounted your security deposit from what it currently is down to $99 refundable security deposit. Maybe you're waiving the $100 administration fee if the prospect leases within a certain period of time. I would say 48 hours. You don't want to go outside of the 48-hour time period of touring, okay? And then you're going to want to go ahead and input that this was approved by Rick or Crystal. You'll always want to make sure that you're running your leasing specials and revised market rates or revised rental rates through your regional manager. Just bounce the idea off of them, send them a quick email. Hey, this is what I'm thinking. This is what I would like to do. Okay. Formatting wise, everything over in this column here should be bolded. Everything over here should just be standard text. And you're going to do this for every unit that you have. So if 4413-B2 had been vacant for 25 days, you're going to go ahead and repeat this process. This particular process may not be necessary for those units that have been vacant for just a very brief period of time, right? You're not going to necessarily do this for a unit that's been vacant for less than a week. But for those over 21 days plus, you're going to want to go ahead and do this for. So that's the unit availability detail report. You're going to go ahead and print it now. And what I'm going to suggest after you click File, Print, is to scale it. Now, you guys will have the option of scaling the report. You can see here it's like super duper small, okay? Now, my print screen is going to be a little bit different than what your Windows print screen is, but the general information is going to be there one way or the other. You're going to see an area that allows you to scale to fit, or sometimes it'll say fit to one page. In this particular instance, we're going to have 1 page wide by 1 page tall. That ensures that all of this information is printed on one specific page. It doesn't run over to, other cells on another page or anything of that nature. Confine it to that one page. And then click your print. All right, that's the unit availability detail report. Let's move on to the next page of the report. And things are going to pick up just a little bit here. That one is by far your most detailed page, aside from your resident delinquency or your aged receivables report. So going back into your reports section, we're going to go ahead and pull the traffic detail report. You're going to go to Reports, Traffic, and Traffic Detail. Relatively straightforward, right? Your property code will auto-generate, and then all you need to do is to go ahead and change the date range. Now, if I recall correctly, we want the date range from last week's report to this week's report. So if today is the 7th, we're going to pull for August 31st through September 7th. So let's go ahead and do that. Oh. You should be going ahead and pulling by unit type. Actually, let me double check that. I think what we want to do, bear with me for just a second. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and keep that unit type. Then we're going to go ahead and click Submit. Oh. And we'll wait patiently for that report to generate. Based off of the number of prospects you had visiting the community, this report can be pretty detailed. In this particular instance, bear with me, I think I might want to change that. No, it is going to be unit type. No, you guys are going to want to pull by unit type. In this particular instance, as you can see, we don't have any traffic going through Wheat Ridge Gardens. Jill, is that correct? Can you correct me if I'm wrong? I hate to put you on the spot.
Okay, so Miguel says that we do have some, he just hasn't put it in because
Gotcha.
they're waiting to open it.
Okay. All right. Sorry, I hate to put you on the spot like that. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't pulling it on my end incorrectly. So let's pull a different property. Let's see, who should we pull? Any volunteers? Any volunteers?
You can pull Wapiti's if you want.
I love it. Wapiti Meadows. Is that WM? It is.
Yes.
Okay, beautiful. Well, there we go. Okay, so thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. Um, so here's the traffic detail. And as you can see, this particular report generates very different than all of the other reports that we pull for the Friday morning report. This one in particular, we don't need to edit anything on this in the sense that we're going to add anything to it. But what we are going to do is we're going to go up to this blue disk with the little green arrow. We're going to click the down arrow next to it. We're going to go ahead and export this to Excel. It's going to open up a little window here. It's not necessary to keep that open, but you're going to want to go to your downloads and open it up there. This report requires a little bit more editing to make it more user-friendly. The first thing that we're going to do again is we're going to go ahead and change that font size to 12 to make it more legible for our regional managers. And then as you can see, after doing so, it actually adjusts some of your columns. So you're going to want to make sure that these are spaced in such a way that makes it much easier for your regional managers to go ahead and read, okay? And the way that you do that, the really quick way that you do that, is you bring your cursor in Excel over to the line in between the 4 and the 5. I'm going to blow up my screen a little bit. Okay, this line right here. Double clicking on that line, we'll do it with this column with number 3. Clicking on that line will auto adjust that to fit the contents of that cell. Okay, so let me go ahead and shrink that back down a little bit here to our standard size. Okay, and that's essentially all you need to do with this report. You don't need to do any other edits with this report. Okay, what you are going to do is, again, press your print button, and you're going to want to click Scale to Fit. You want to make sure that it's fit on one particular page. If you find that your traffic has been so substantial that as you're fitting it to one page, everything's just getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, keep your pages wide to 1, change your pages tall to 2 or 3. And what that'll do is it'll make sure it won't go on to the cell this way, it'll go down instead, okay? And that's the traffic detail report. The next report is either your resident delinquency summary for the conventional properties or your aged receivables report for the affordable housing. Lots of our affordable housing communities, and we thank you for this, actually pull both reports. And we'd like you to continue doing that, whether it's your aged receivables, to continue to pull your aged receivables, and your resident delinquency summary. Some of our properties combine both affordable components and conventional, and the affordable components are listed on the aged receivables in a very different way than how they can be on the delinquency summary. We're looking for more detail with our affordable housing communities. We want to know specifically if we're waiting on a rent reimbursement or if it's a utility reimbursement. We also are paying particularly close attention to the time period of delinquency. So why don't we go ahead and pull that? So going back to your home screen, which is not always necessary, I always just do it. I always just say go home. We're going to come on over to analytics. We're going to go ahead and click on that residential AR analytics button, and that's going to pull up the accounts receivable for your specific property. So start with, again, the specific report type. For all intents and purposes, my affordable peeps, I'm going to actually go ahead and stick with the delinquency summary report because the vast majority of our employees or our managers are in conventional properties. So we're going to go ahead and do the delinquency summary. We're going to go ahead and change from property to resident in the summary type. Now, once you select these presets, they should actually stay as your primary settings. I don't do this anymore, so mine revert to the defaults. So delinquency summary, resident, we'll want to go ahead and change your property code. Again, I'm going to go back to Wheat Ridge Gardens. And then what you're going to do is you're going to pull for your current residents and you're going to pull for your notice residents. On your keyboard for Windows users, you're going to click on current, you're going to hold down your control button, and then you're going to click on notice, okay? For my Apple users, you're going to click on current, hold down your command button, not your control, your command button, and click notice. And that's how you're able to select two different fields that are separated by other items. Now, I would fully encourage you to pull a resident delinquency summary for your past to make sure your past, maybe your applicants, or canceled or denied, to make sure that your financials are looking good. It's not really necessary at this point in time, but maybe you had a past applicant who was canceled or denied, and we generated application charges, but we never posted those checks. That's a good way of catching that, okay? So for all intents and purposes, we're going to do current and notice. Let's go ahead and click that display button. Again, everything preloads down bottom. We're going to go ahead and export to Excel. Now, believe it or not, this is the page of the report that we find most individuals will handwrite their written remarks on. And we really, 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 really want to discourage you from doing that. Let's keep it looking professional. Let's keep it looking clean. So, again, one of the things that we're going to want to do here, why is that not showing my, bear with me, I have no formatting there, which is super weird. So bear with me while I regenerate that report. Again, things are just a little bit different on my computer than they're going to be on yours, but not by much. There we go. I love it when I can format things. So again, the first thing that we're going to want to do is we're going to click this box right here to select the entire worksheet. We're going to go ahead and increase the font size. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and adjust those columns to fit accordingly. As you can see, mine actually auto did it. Here's the other things that you're going to go ahead and do. You're going to select row number 28 in this particular instance and row number 30. And let's just go ahead and get rid of those. They're unnecessary, superfluous. The next thing that you're going to do, although your regional managers appreciate seeing what credit balances are generated for the property, they're really not in tune with that. You need to be more in tune with that than your regional manager is. We really want you to take note of the credit balances and generate credit balance letters to your residents. I highly encourage that you circulate these letters the last week of the month so that the residents have as up-to-date correspondence as possible that says, hey, did you know that you have a $45 credit? Why don't you deduct it from next month's rent? Clean up these resident delinquencies. Even though it's a credit balance, it's still a delinquency. We want to make sure those residents are taking advantage of those credit balances. But let's go ahead and remove them from the report. So coming over here, select cells 7 through 9, right-click on them, and then just delete. You're going to want to do this for all of your credit balances. This is going to clean up the report. It's going to list the information that your regional managers are very interested in. And with any luck, you're actually generating a resident delinquency summary when you're processing resident delinquency, within these last couple of days. So you should have some pretty decent notes here. And that's what we want. We want notations. We want to know what's going on with these balances. And these notations are progressive throughout the month. And what I mean by that is these notations should change as the month progresses. So we just issued resident delinquency as of the 6th of this month, right? So what we're going to do is for those large balances, we're going to go ahead and indicate on here 3-day posted on 09/06/2016. Well, there's your notation. Let's just say, for example, that Miller here paid, and they paid yesterday. Don't put a notation here that says paid, just remove them from your report, okay? For your small balances, you posted a small balance letter on the same day that you generated your resident delinquency. And you're going to continue doing this down the road, okay? Next week, when you file this report and you've sent individuals off to the attorneys, this needs to change from the 3-day posting to forwarded to the attorneys, right? So let's just pretend it's Friday of next week. You sent to the attorneys on Monday or Tuesday. You're going to want to go ahead and put that notation here. Forwarded to the attorneys on 09, and then whatever the date of next, when we send, I think it's the 13th, maybe the 12th or 13th. We'll go ahead and just say the 13th here. Forwarded to the attorneys. This progressive notation, this continuous notation, allows your regional manager to understand what steps you have taken to try to resolve this resident delinquency. It tells us that you're being aggressive about your collection methods. It tells us that you're in tune with what you're trying to accomplish here. And what you're trying to accomplish here is to get your resident delinquency down to as low as possible. The other thing that we're going to be paying particularly close attention to, you'll notice here, is the age of these receivables, or the age of these delinquencies, okay? Remember, when you receive a rent check, it's very, very, very important that you are posting that rent check to the oldest balance first. I'm going to say that just one more time. You need to be posting that rent to the oldest balance first. Now, when you're posting checks, Yardi automatically distributes the monies. Keep an eye on that and make sure that if you do have an aged delinquency, that regardless of how Yardi has distributed distributed that money, that you're putting it towards that oldest balance first. We always recommend put it towards utilities, rentable items such as garages or carports, pet rent first, and then any excess will go to rent. We want to make sure that these columns 31 through 90 days, these 3 columns, always read 0. For our affordable communities, and those conventional communities that have an affordable component such as Section 8 voucher programs or things like that, there are going to be instances, unfortunately, where that's just not a possibility because you're waiting on that housing voucher to come in. So sometimes you will carry a delinquency 30 to 90 days. What you're going to want to do is to indicate really good notations as to why you're carrying that resident delinquency over an extended period of time. And that could very well be waiting on housing voucher, should be received by such and such a date. Always type and make sure that your notations are clear, specific, and concise. We're not looking for extended explanations. We're looking for that quick explanation that tells us exactly what's going on with each of these. The other thing that you don't want to do is to leave a specific delinquency blank. Doesn't matter how small or how large, always put a notation. Always tell us what you're doing to collect. Please always make sure your notations are in the column to the right of total owed. Please do not put your notations in column A. We want to make sure that everybody's reports are uniform, looking professional, with all of the fantastic information that we're looking for. Because this particular report has sometimes tripped up our managers, I'm really encouraging you to touch base with your regional manager or myself to ensure that we're addressing any questions or concerns you have regarding your resident delinquency summary or your aged receivables report. Your aged receivables report, although more comprehensive, you're going to be putting your notations in that same column to the left of total owed. But what you are going to do is, if it was for utility reimbursement, you're going to put that notation by that specific line item for utility reimbursement or rental reimbursement or something of that nature. Are there any questions before we move on from resident delinquency into the final page of the report? If so, and you'd like to ask me, I will be hanging out a little bit afterwards. You guys are welcome to go ahead and ask me then or shoot me an email. The very last report that we are pulling here is the work order list. And what you're going to do is you're going to go over to work order. No, just kidding. You're going to go to reports, you're going to go to work orders, and you're going to go to work order list. It's going to go ahead and pull up this report. Anything in the blue box is required, so you're going to put in your property code, which should auto-generate for you. And then what you're going to do is you're going to pull for a solid month. and pull by call dates. Don't pull by scheduled or completion dates. Pull only by call dates. Make sure your order is by unit or by work order. And that's the only information you're going to need to change on this particular one. So we're going to go back to 08, 07, 2016 up to today's date. Click your submit button, and it's going to pull up any of those work orders that were filed within that given time period. Let's go ahead and click that Excel button and export to Excel. On Windows, it just occurred to me, Windows, your downloads will actually appear at the bottom of your screen. On Apple, they'll appear up here in the downloads button. Let's go ahead and open up that report. See, it's still doing that weird thing. Let me try that again, guys. And see if we can't. I apologize for the brief technical difficulty here. There we go. So again, what we're going to do is we're going to select the entire report. We're going to make sure that it's at 12. And we're going to go ahead and space these columns so that they're a little bit more user-friendly. You can read them a little bit easier. Before we continue with that, let's just go back to the resident delinquency summary for one last thing. And when we print this report, just as a friendly reminder, again, you're going to want to scale it to fit 1 page wide by 1 page tall, depending upon how, pardon me, I'm so sorry. Depending upon how lengthy your delinquency is, okay? So scaling it to fit 1 page by 1 page, the report will automatically shrink. And so sometimes that text will get smaller and smaller and smaller. And I know I've talked about this a couple of times during this training, but I want to be absolutely certain we're all on the same page. If your resident delinquency is substantial and you think that it's going to go on to the next page, remember, keep it 1 page wide, change how many pages tall it's going to be. That's what you should change. Always keep wide the same, change pages tall. Okay. The work order list is actually relatively straightforward. What we're looking for here is productivity and efficiency. We're looking to see what type of service requests you guys are receiving over a given period of time. Maybe there's a specific type of service request you're attending to. I know that some of our properties have some plumbing issues, in their showers. Others, we're having AC issues, especially over the warmer months. What we're looking at here specifically is the status of the report. Is it completed? Is it on hold? Has it been scheduled? Is it just by call? What's the age of the work order? What's its brief description? And then any additional information that we may need to know can be placed as a note over here, right? So for these two, they were completed on August 10th and August 11th. We still have one that's open from August 16th. Looks like window screens here. And maybe the problem is parts are on back order. Let your regional manager know what's going on with that specific service request. This helps your regional manager and the executive officers understand what type of hurdles you guys are experiencing maintenance-wise at your properties. If this list had 25 service requests and 15 of those 25 service requests were ACs and they were all still open, you bet your regional manager is going to jump into action to get in touch with you and your service supervisor to find out how they can help you get those service requests completed within a timely manner. Do we need to call out a vendor? Is there a part that we're waiting on? What's the updated status? How can I assist you? Make some good notations on here too, but only for those that are open an extended period of time. Hudson Grove Property Management's internal policy concerning work orders is an average turnaround time of 24 hours barring any unforeseen circumstances. What we want to do is we want to make sure that we're addressing or attending to that service request. And that can be as simple as a phone call to the resident that says, hey, you put in a service request this morning. We put in a parts order. Everything should arrive by the end of this week. We'll go ahead and visit, by Friday of this week. Or immediately responding to the service request in and of itself by knocking on the door and saying, hey, I saw you had a work order for a light bulb out. I had some spare time. Let's go ahead and put that in. We want to be addressing and or attending these within 24 hours. That's not always possible if we're waiting on vendors suppliers, contractors, parts, anything of that nature. That's not to say that every single service request needs to be completed in 24 hours. Let me be very specific about that. We want to make sure that we're addressing or attending. Addressing is making contact with the resident to keep them in the loop. Attending to it is actually implementing corrective action. Once again, once you've filled out this report in full, you're going to go ahead and print. We're going to go ahead and scale it again to fit 1:1. Keep an eye on that. Again, if you have multiple service requests, you're going to want to change how many pages tall it is. And then you're going to print. Now, with any luck, you've printed 5 pages to this report. The other page to the report that's absolutely necessary, there are no exceptions to this whatsoever, is printing out a copy of your Craigslist ad for that property. Everybody should be actively generating ads on Craigslist. This is the main source. This is our main traffic source generator. We want to make sure that every property has an active ad on Craigslist. If you're not certain how to post to Craigslist, you're not certain how to refresh, delete, or add new ads, let me know so that I can walk you through the process and you're not getting ghosted. Ghosted is when you're posting too many ads and they catch on. If you're not posting to Craigslist, we really need to connect with your regional manager as well as you to make sure that you are. It doesn't matter if you have 1 unit vacant or 15. Let me rephrase, 1 unit available or 15. We want to make sure that we're posting actively to Craigslist several times throughout the day, several times during the week. That needs to be included with your report as well. So you'll have 6 pages to this report. Eventually, I believe there's going to be 1 additional page. It's not quite ready yet. We started using it a little while back and then we went ahead and took a break from it, but it is the projects Google Doc, which allows your regional manager to understand what active projects are happening on your property. I believe we're still trying to figure out what's going to work best for making sure that that's user-friendly for all of our managers on site and that we're all actively contributing to it in a productive way. So for the time being, you're going to have your cover sheet, your unit availability details report, your unit or your traffic details report, your resident delinquency and or the aged receivables report, the work order list, and finally the Craigslist ad. You're going to go ahead and bundle these together and you're going to scan them onto your computer as a PDF file with all pages of the PDF included into one document. That's particularly important. Then what you're going to want to do, and please take note of this, this is a specific request, is you're going to rename that document. And you're going to rename that document in such a way, and we'll pretend that this is a PDF, okay? We're going to save as. We've saved it to our desktop, okay? You know, that PDF is scanned to your computer and it's sitting on the desktop as a PDF. You're going to want to rename it, and I'm just pulling this up so you can see what you're going to rename it as. You're going to put the specific date that you're filing it on, and then you're going to put the property that you work at. In this particular instance, it's Wheat Ridge Gardens. So again, you've taken all of the pages of your report. You've scanned it onto your computer in PDF format with all pages bundled together in one specific document. The document has generated to your desktop. You're going to right-click on that document icon and rename it. And this is the format that you're going to use. Month, period, date, period, year, and then your property code or property name. Then you're going to go ahead and attach it to an email. You're going to go ahead and send it off to your regional manager, and they're going to go ahead and review it. Well, when are you going to send these? Friday. Their Friday morning report. So let's make sure that we go ahead and have these reports generated, formatted, filled out with all of that fantastic information, and sent to your regional manager no later than noon on Fridays. If you anticipate needing more time, you need to be in touch with your regional manager right away. Let's keep in mind that your regional manager is not just reviewing your property reports or the properties within your portfolio, but all of those properties that are assigned to them. The sooner you can generate these reports and provide them to your regional manager on Friday, the earlier they'll have the opportunity to review them and touch base with you if they have any questions that may warrant additional information to benefit our executive officers. What you don't want to have happen is you don't want to have this report bounced back to you Monday morning for additional information, because then that puts you behind, puts your regional manager behind, and then the executive officers don't have enough time to really evaluate what we can do to help you guys. Friday mornings, this should really be one of the first tasks on your to-do lists. Check your voicemails, check your emails, and then immediately move on to filing your Friday morning reports. Okay, I'm just looking through a couple of other items on my to-do list or my talk about list. And the last couple of notations before I go ahead and open it up to you guys to ask us any questions. We do have Rick here, we have Crystal, as well as Terry, so we're all available to ask any questions you have, is going back to what we talked about with the BVR, the Budget Variance Report. This is a professional report. It's a report that you're sending to executive officers that may be shared with owners and investors at any point in time. It's really important that this report reflects your professionalism in every capacity. This report, in tandem with the BVR, tells us how in tune you are with your property. So it's really important that you guys take your time, make sure that it's formatted correctly, make sure you're checking your spelling, grammar, and sentence structure. Ensure that you have all of the good information in there that's necessary so that we don't have to come back and kind of, hey, what's going on here? You know, there wasn't a whole lot of detail, what's happening? Be as thorough yet concise as possible, and showcase those amazing management capabilities that you guys have. You all are amazing property managers. You would not be in the positions that you're in right now if you didn't have a phenomenal work ethic, that level of professionalism we're looking for, that eye for detail, that level of integrity. You guys are amazing. Keep that in the back of your minds. We genuinely appreciate everything you guys do. We want to be able to help you in any way possible. And with that being said, I would fully encourage anybody that has any questions to please reach out now or after the webinar has ended or by email. So, does anybody have any questions?
Vinny, I do. This is Jill.
Hi, Jill.
So for marketing, what about Facebook?
Oh, that's a great question. I'm so glad that you've asked that. Hudson Grove Property Management is in the process of looking into social media opportunities, whether that be Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, or all of them. We're looking into programs that will genuinely help us manage that social media in an efficient and productive manner that benefits the company, the resident, as well as you. So at this moment in time, most of our communities or properties should not have a social media presence, or if they do, it should be very subtle. But as that social media presence is growing and we've started to roll out these programs, that'll be a perfect opportunity to not only advertise what's happening at your community on a customer service venue or perspective, but also start integrating those lead opportunities as well to start leasing outside of the box.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, if there aren't any other questions, again, this particular seminar or webinar has been recorded. It's going to be uploaded to YouTube within the next 48 hours, and I will make sure that that link gets circulated to you. And I will as well send out with that link an updated copy of the Friday morning report training guide for our conventional properties. Affordable properties, I'm actually still working on your guide because I'm integrating that aged receivables component. So it's taking me just a little bit more time, but I'm also going to send you that conventional as well, because for about 95% of what you'll do, it'll apply. It'll be applicable. In the meantime, don't hesitate to reach out via phone or email to myself or your regional managers if you guys have any questions. And I hope that you guys have an amazing day. Thank you so much for setting aside the time at this very busy time of month to join me. I really enjoy chatting with you guys. and have a wonderful rest of your day and week if we don't talk before the weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Vince.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks. Have a good day.
You as well. Hi, Antoinette, Bailey, and Marcus. I see that you guys are still hanging out. Did you guys have any questions for me? No, oh, no. All right, guys. Well, if you do have anything that comes up, do not hesitate to shoot me an email or give me a call or touch base with your regionals. Have a happy Wednesday.